Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, depending where on the globe you happen to be right now. Hi, it's Insane Writer, and welcome to the channel, The Budget Gamer. Tonight, I'm going to cover kind of a controversial card, and it's getting a lot of heat, a lot of press, so to speak, in the community. I've been following different threads on Reddit. Facebook is another go-to social media medium. I like to follow some groups there. One of the groups on Facebook that I follow, it's got about 150 or so thousand players, very active. Seen a lot of, I don't want to say misinformation, but I think there's two sides of the coin of this red card debate. So for those of you who don't know, the red card is a card you can, it's an item card that you can play. And what it does is it takes all the cards out of your opponent's hand. Could be 1 card, 3 cards, 5 cards, 6 cards, however many they happen to have. And they get shuffled back into the deck. Once they're into the deck, the player then draws 3 cards. Now, I used to use this red card as a way to take a player who has, say, 6 cards, 5 cards, maybe 7 cards, and starting to get a little worried that, wow, they must have a lot of good stuff coming my way. And so I would play my red card to take away their cards and, basically minimize what they had in their hand. However, it seemed more times than not, they went from not being able to really play, do much, maybe get some basic level Pokemon on the bench to start their evolutions, to all of a sudden just hitting it in full gear. And, they got 3 cards, and the next thing I know they have 1 card. So it really kind of had me thinking. So I started doing some research, and at the same time I was kind of starting to read and research, I came across some really good threads on Reddit talking about the mathematics behind it. Now, I'm no math genius. I was, a student all throughout school and took advanced math classes. But, when you get people who have degrees in statistical probability and things like that, you know that they know what they're talking about. So I found some threads, and they were taking, a 20-card deck, were dealt a number of cards, were guaranteed at least 1 basic Pokemon. That card gets played. Odds are, mathematically, there's a decent chance you might have a Pokeball or Professor's Research to get played right away as well. And so the end result is you have a deck of remaining cards. And of those remaining cards, there's where everything you're going to need to play the game. So what they started showing mathematically is the percentages related to your remaining deck and getting either some cards that really had no effect on the player. You played a red card on your opponent, it had no effect on the opponent, or maybe it does have a negative effect on the opponent, or maybe it has a negative effect on you in the fact that you gave them some cards that they needed and got them unstuck. So, the more I started thinking about it, usually when I have a large hand, I start wanting someone to play a red card as well, because typically that large hand means that I'm stuck. I love to play a Mewtwo EX deck, and I'm stuck. I've got all these cards. I've got Gardevoir. I've got Kirlia. I've got everything I need. I just can't pull a darn Ralts to get things started. And, I'm hoping for a red card, and sure enough, I get a red card. And then boom, I've got my Ralts and I'm off and running, and I'm kind of quietly thanking my opponent for playing that red card. So that's really kind of had me thinking. And then when I saw the math really kind of hammered it home. Now, Pokemon TCG Pocket, it's all about your own personal strategies, your own personal thoughts. There's a meta out there, but there's always some random luck, and also how well or not you play. A lot of times I play very well when I'm focused, and I play very horribly when I'm multitasking, such as streaming. So if you look at the math, and I have it up on the screen, so there's this whole thing about the rough probability. So If you play a red card on your opponent, roughly 33 to 50% of the time, you're going to have a neutral outcome for their hand. And by the way, just as a side note, I'm going to play some games here, going through my top 5 budget decks, and I'm going to keep track of if anyone plays a red card and kind of keep track of what happens to my hand, if I think it's an improvement or not. But so back to what I was mentioning, neutral response, basically a neutral outcome, 33 to 50% of the chance of the time, based on the fact that you've already drawn cards, you've already played at least one basic Pokemon, and perhaps based off the law of averages and the percentages based off of having a Pokeball, assuming you have 2 in your deck, getting a Professor's Research, again, assuming you have 2 in your deck. What are the odds of impacting their hand either positively, negatively, or neutrally? So 33 to 50% of the time, you play that red card to your opponent, and it neither improves their hand or it neither negatively impacts their hand. It's just kind of a neutral. Maybe, you know, they swapped out a few cards. The end result is it didn't really make a big shift in what their gameplay will be. So the next probability is 25 to 33% that, you know, it's going to have a negative impact. And negative positive kind of looks, you got to think about it, is it from your side or from their side? So if I say it's a negative impact on their side, so they were getting ready to, they got all the cards they need to just ramp right up the Gardevoir, and I play a red card, and suddenly they lost Gardevoir. So now they're not going to just ramp up really quickly and start hammering on me with a Mewtwo EX for 150 points of damage. So that was a negative impact to them and a positive impact to me because I just, you know, saved a Mewtwo EX kind of running rampant on the board. Likewise, it's the same odds, 25 to 35%, that it's a positive. So I could play a red card and they're playing a Mewtwo EX, kind of stick with that as an example. And they're missing one. They got 2 of the 3. They got first stage, second stage, but they don't have that first stage Ralts. And maybe I swap cards out, and they end up getting maybe Ralts and one other, and they basically can actually now get started. Versus maybe Ralts is way down at the bottom of their deck. So there's times where it's going to negatively impact the person who played the red card and positively impact the person who received it. And to my comment earlier, especially if someone has a bricked hand, you're sitting on 4, 5, 6 cards, and you just got a really bad deal. Seeing your opponent playing a red card is basically your reprieve to hopefully start over and get some cards that you need. So with that said, if roughly 33 to 50% is neutral, and 25 to 33% is going to be, let's say, a positive experience for them. From my perspective, playing it, overall, it's going to be a 66 to 75% negative impact to me. I'm either going to play it and it's neutral, or I'm going to play it and it helps them out. So if I'm playing a card that has roughly, say, 2/3 to 3/4 of a chance to not really be beneficial to me, the question then becomes, is it really a card that I should have on my deck? It's kind of almost really worse than it'd be like, oh, okay, you got to flip 3 coins and you need 2 heads, or you've got to flip 4 coins and you need 3 heads. Those aren't the greatest of odds, and I probably wouldn't play a card that worked that way. So that's the debate behind the red card, because there'll be a lot of people who are saying, well, it interrupts their play, it kind of throws them off, it might make them frustrated, or, you know, it does actually take away a card that was the perfect link to get them to where they needed to kind of go off on their opponent with attacks. That does happen. No one's saying it doesn't happen. I think where the people are coming on the side of the debate to saying the red card's really not that useful is just looking at the statistical odds of how does it work. That said, I think Pokemon Pocket TCG isn't really equipped very well for that type of functionality. Now, if we were playing regular TCG, let's say with 60 card decks, I think throwing down a red card on my opponent, and let's just say they happen to have something they needed, I think it would really have an impact, because that card may get buried quite a ways down into the deck before they draw 3 after, you know, it's shuffled and then they draw 3. So there's definitely more of a need and more functionality for a card like that in a larger deck. But I think when you take the simplified rules of Pocket, you know, the retuned cards and how they do damage and everything else, including how the red card works, I just don't think that the decks are too small to really get the math that you're looking for to make it a really effective card. So without all of that said, I've started transitioning away from using red cards in my decks and either putting in an extra, if I'm saying I'm short a Giovanni, put an extra Giovanni in, or let's just say an extra Sabrina if I only had one Sabrina. I mean, typically most decks, unless you're playing like a Fossils deck with Mankey or something, you'll typically have 2 Pokeball. You know, you're typically going to have 2 Professor's Research. I might go with an extra potion if I don't have 2 potions. So I think there's a lot of usefulness in taking those cards out of your deck and replace them with other item or supporter cards that may have a more favorable impact on your play and ability to possibly win. So with all that said, feel free to leave a comment. Feel free to say hi. I'm going to go ahead and just spend the rest of this time, about 45 minutes. I'm going to play my top 5 budget decks. I had a stream on this a few days ago. I've got a video on the channel. I'm just going to run from number 5 down to number 1. But the real intent of this stream is not to demonstrate or really critique the top 5 decks, although we may talk a little bit about it, and I'll probably explain some of the strategy on the way, is to see if someone plays a red card and overall see if it has a favorable impact to my hand, or if it didn't really make a difference, or if it had a negative impact. So just kind of a off-the-cuff, loose little test of the red card and see how it does. So with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I'm starting off with my budget, top 5 budget number 5, which is a poison deck. I'm going to go ahead and launch my match and get started here. All right, got an opponent coming up, no emblems. Let's see how I start off first match of the night. I lost the coin flip, so the irony is that's what I'm looking for. And so on this poison deck, I've got Grimer and Coughing as my basic Pokemon. And my preference is to get Grimer. I love him for 70 health. I would prefer to put him into the active spot. And this deck, I haven't cleaned up the top 5 decks yet, because at the time I made them, they had some red cards in them. So you're going to see red cards. I'm going to try to play a few. I decided not to take them out of the decks that I'm going to display tonight, just to see if I can try to figure out how my red card impacted my opponent or not. In my video that'll come out in about 3.5 hours, I've got a match playing where the person kind of had a bricked hand. I play a red card, and then all of a sudden you kind of see them start going to town with playing cards and getting everything they need. So kind of curious to see if not only might attract my side, but I'm going to see if I can help anyone else out and kind of see if we can kind of figure out if we helped them or not. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is start with a Pokeball. I know I at least got 2 more basics, so I'm going to pull out another Grimer. From there, I'm going to go ahead and pull out Professor's Research. And I got a Muck. So the whole idea of this poison deck is I want to get Muck active after Grimer or Wheezing has poisoned my opponent. I'm going to put a second Coughing down. I'm going to go ahead. I've got a full bench going here. I'm going to go ahead and assign that 1 poison energy to my Pokemon. I'm going to go ahead and here's a great example right now. So my opponent's sitting on 5 cards, and I could play they didn't put anything else down, so they have no other Pokemon to play. So let me go ahead and throw a red card out, and let's just see if next hand they play more than 1 card. We'll assume maybe they draw something good. Let's see if I just help them out. So normally I wouldn't want to play a red card. Well, let's see what happens. If they're able to play one, maybe they drew it just that card right now, or maybe it was one of the swaps. So there's another Ralts. There's a Professor's Research, which they could have been probably didn't have because they didn't play it earlier. So I would say there's an example where, based off of playing that red card, they seem to suddenly kind of get going. They're down to 2 cards from 5. So I think there's a great example of where the red card, again, we don't know. Well, there's another upgrade, an evolution right there. So we don't know for sure, but the thought would be that's probably an example there where the red card actually helped my opponent out. So that would fall into maybe the 25 to 33% chance where you play the red card and it actually kind of backfires on you. All right, so let's see how I'm going to work this. So I've got my grammar with 1 energy. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sit for a second. Got a Ralt. I'm going to place an energy over on my... no, I'll just go ahead and take this route, put my muck there. Kind of defense up that card. I've got my X speeds I don't need. And with that, I'll end my turn. So again, we'll see if playing a red card, what it does for my opponent, and also if one gets played on me, does it help me out or not? So let's just say if we're kind of keeping score, we'll give that first one. It's kind of, obviously, we don't know for sure, but it sure looks like we helped our opponent out. So first time red card, 1 for red card helping out our opponent. 0 neutral and 0 for helping ourselves out. Okay, so now it's looking, all their cards are gone. They got a Mewtwo, they got a Gardevoir, and so they're probably thanking me for that red card. Let's see how they're going to play this out. I do have poison, so that's always, which is, attacking with dark energy. So that's always nice against a psychic deck. So I at least have that going for me. I do have a full bench. Here comes Mew. So we know that that Mew is going to be within striking distance. Next turn to take my muck out. All right, so with that, I know that I'm gonna go ahead and play this point there. I want to try to get some good damage going. If he was poisoned, if I had a Wheezing, for example, which I don't yet, but I could try to have moved Wheezing to the front and try to get a poison on. In this case, even if I use my potion and go up to 90, I know that with that Gardevoir there, it's going to be kind of a waste. So, and I'm not sacrificing an EX here. So I'm going to go ahead and attack. And with the fact that I'm attacking with Dark, I've got that plus 20. All right, I see Peter with a comment. Hi, Peter. Thanks for joining and watching. Misty Card. I love Misty Card. You missed last night. I don't know if you were on last night, but we went over an Articuno EX Greninja deck. All right, so my muck is gone. I'm going to go ahead and put a Coughing out front. So, basically, I think this red card I played, which perfectly illustrates, I have this Pokeball. I'll go ahead and throw it out of my hand, just to make sure it doesn't get shuffled back in case an opponent played a second red card, where I could draw it again. I'm going to go ahead and assign 1 energy here to my Coughing and Suffocating Attack. Yeah, Peter, we went through Greninja Articuno EX last night, and in the last match, I think it was, we saw Misty work her magic and literally took the only card out on the table very early in the match. It's a great deck, and I don't know if you're tuned into the expansion coming out, but there's a Vaporeon card that I think will be a great addition to go along with Misty, where it starts handing out energy like candy. So I'm looking forward to seeing that card and how it gets woven into some of these water decks, especially handing out you know, the energy from Misty, assuming you can get the coin flips. All right, so my opponent was willing to do a trade there to basically sacrifice their EX. So I'm going to go ahead and put Coughing in. And still not getting much going my way as far as being dealt. Place this here. And with that, I'll go ahead and attack. So it's now 2-2. And we'll see if we can pull out a win on this one. I think it's going to come down to what's remaining in my deck, if I can get something going the way with what I'm hoping for. All right, Meowth to the active spot. Little decision point there. It's got my opponent here. She has Gardevoir, so I don't think they're going to be missing for energy, and Meowth is using colorless energy. All right, my Grimer is going to step to the front. Okay, there's a Wheezing, so I'm going to go ahead and evolve my Coughing to a Wheezing. Going to use Grimer, 3 energy to retreat. So usually I'm okay with Grimer because I'm hoping for a muck, and I'm basically just going to kind of play it out. I'm going to assign this 1 energy up to Grimer. I'm going to use 2x speeds, which, you know, if I was seeing a Pokemon with 3 energy for retreat, I'd kind of be almost banking on the fact that it's not going back to the bench. But my hands just happened to oh, and I forgot to, I'm so busy talking, I wanted to go ahead and move him back. That was a mistake on my part. I wanted to put Wheezing into the active spot and then attack with Wheezing. Again, like I was mentioning earlier, when I'm just focused on playing and not trying to have a conversation and not trying to share any information, you know, I'm pretty good at my battles. I did the 5 wins in the very first try, playing a Mewtwo EX. But when it comes to streaming, I have a tendency to kind of not stay in tune with the match as well as I need to. As you all saw there, I made a mistake. Spent all that energy to and X speed to get my Grimer back to the bench, and then nothing happened. Now perhaps I might get lucky right here and draw a muck, and then I can finish this game off. Nope. Not going to happen. And I basically gave my opponent a win. So it doesn't matter how good your deck is if you don't play it right. Illustration on my part. I'll just go ahead and let them take me out. But if I would have swapped out, I would have had this victory. So this is my top 5 budget decks. So we're really keeping track of red card impact. And with this match, I'm pretty sure we showed that the red card had a negative impact to me as the person who played it. We'll see if we can get some more red card play. I left the red cards in these decks just so that we can kind of track this. But for my actual game decks that I'm competing with, I've removed my red cards. All right, so my opponent's doing all kinds of stuff when all they need to do is attack and finish. But they earned the win based off of my mistake. So I'll let them have their moment of... Actually, I'm not sure what they're doing. I still there they go. They're taking a long time using up everything they can before they finish this match off. All right. And with that, they win. So I think we would have had that match had I not made that mistake. Yeah, let's tap through here. Make sure to give my opponent a thanks. You're welcome for that victory. And with that, I'm going to change to my budget number 4 deck. Where is it? I probably passed it. A metal deck. Go ahead and play this one. So again, what I'm really trying to do is track the impact of the red card on play tonight during this hour of streaming. But at the same time, I'm at least kind of showing those of you who may have not seen my stream or my video on top 5 budget decks, also kind of demonstrating that at the same time. I got one card to play here, Melton. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And a budget deck, I define a budget deck as it only has 1, 2, or 3 diamonds. And so it can't have 4 diamonds, which basically means anything EX or stronger. And I also have a term called ultra budget deck. And I have 2 ultra budget decks in this top 5. And an ultra budget deck is a deck that only has 1 or 2 diamond cards and only has up to 1 stage of evolution. Okay, so I could be up against the Blaine deck, which we'll see a little further along. Go ahead and play. So we know the red card. Let's see if we can save it for a situation where we can tell there's a little bit more going on. Let's see if we can actually tell if it helps out or not. If we see our opponent starting to collect cards, and then we play it, and then they start playing a bunch, we'll know the impact of it. Okay. Yard going down. Another one going down. And with that, I am going to stop. Now, most of the threads and everything I read kind of talking about red cards said, if you are going to have it in your deck and you're going to play it, it's probably better to play it early along and not later. But again, as seen on the screen, on the left-hand side of my stream, I put down the odds and the percentages that the math geniuses have figured out for how it impacts. Now, I'm no math genius. I guess I don't need to be smart enough to figure it out. I just need to be smart enough to recognize someone who knows what they're talking about and follow suit with what they're saying. Okay, so I'm going to play a Bishop down. I'm going to play another Professor's Research. Got another basic Pokemon Melton to play down. And typically on this deck, I usually like to, you want to get Melmetal going and get it energized, and it hits pretty hard. So I'm staring at a 20 damage there, but with the extra 20 from fire, I'm looking at 40 damage. So I definitely need to swap out. So I'm going to go ahead and I don't have an X speed. So I'm going to have to place my energy on my Melton so that I can retreat. Unlike last game, making the mistake of not retreating, and I'm going to put my Bisharp in. And my opponent has 2 cards. So let's see what happens now. Let's see if they're able to do anything. I'm not going to play it yet. And with that, nothing else I can do. I'll just let the time run out. All right. They're up to 3 cards. So they were able to get one card that they needed. So I'm going to hold off on testing out the red card again. I'd like to see them basically not play a card down, so we know that they basically have 3 cards that they most likely can't use unless they're saving something. And then I'll play this red card and see if things change. So far on tracking the red cards, it's 1 for it being negative to me as a player who played it. And in other words, it was more beneficial to my opponent. All right, so here comes Moltres. Waiting for the coin flips. All right, so we got two coin flips, so my opponent's got to be liking that. All right, there's my first Melmetal. I'll go ahead and do an evolution there. And I think I might just leave Bisharp up for a wall, at least for another turn. He's going to have to be two-shotted by that. Well, no, that would be a one-shot with Moltres, but he needs 3 energy, that critter. So I think I'm going to go ahead and... I need 4 energy. It's a long time. But that's kind of the intent of this. So I'm going to put this on Melmetal. I'm going to go ahead and use my Sabrina, though. I'll have my opponent have to spend some energy to get Sabrina back to the active spot. Or, excuse me, get Moltres back to the active spot. All right, so my opponent is moving Magmar to the front. Again, I'm going to save that red card. I want to see, for our test, I want to see my opponent draw one more card and then not really be able to play anything. I'm going to save my potion. I don't really feel it's necessary to heal that one Melton yet. And with that, I'm going to end my turn. So this metal deck is a little bit more of a mid to late game deck, considering, you know, you've got a 4 energy heavy hitter. It's going to take some time. It's not going to be like a Misty Water deck where hopefully you can get a quick start, or even like a Pikachu EX deck, populating your bench early, 2 energy, and you're off and running. So you got to kind of last it out a little bit. So there was a hit on that part. 1 card down. Go ahead and play my Poniard. And my opponent keeps playing a card, so I'm not at a point to kind of test the red card theory. So let's go ahead and... I don't have a whole lot I can do. Potion, I don't want to spend it. Giovanni, I'm not doing damage. Another potion, I'm not going to spend it. Red card, I'm holding off to do this playtest, so I'm going to assign my energy to Melmetal. And with that, I'll finish my turn. Alright, maybe this turn we can see the opponent draw a card and then not play anything. Alright. They have 2, so again, I'm not as much focused on winning these matches, although, you know, obviously I don't want to lose, but it's okay. I'm not all that competitive to the point where I'm going to be upset or anything. So I am going to go ahead and add my 3rd energy. They did not draw a card, so this time I'm going to go ahead and play a red card. So theoretically, they had 3 cards that they could not play, unless, of course, they're storing something for a reason. But let's just see if now, let's see if anything changes. So I've got 3 energy. I have a Giovanni. I can't use 2 potions. I can't use 2 Giovanni. So with that, I'm going to end my turn. All right, so they've drawn a card. So they just played 1 card. So technically that could have came from the deck. We don't know. Or, well, they just played a 2nd card. So now we know, unless they were holding on to something, they could have been holding on to Blaine. But, you know, here's what happens. I played that card. They were at 3. They could have drawn and went to 4, but now they got 2 plays. They got a Ninetales active, and they did that major damage, which is always really impressive. So I'm going to go ahead and just finish this match off. I'll take out the Ninetales and let them finish me off, and kind of go from there. Again, more focused on seeing that if the red card helps or doesn't help. So in this case, I'm going to label that as a help them out again. So in 2 matches, I would say we don't know 100%, but it sure looks pretty apparent that playing that red card actually helped my opponent out. And again, that would be falling into the 25 to 33% of the chance that I play that card. It negatively impacts me and positively impacts my opponent. Match that up where it negatively impacted me, along with the fact that the maths is about 50, roughly 33 to 50% of the time. It doesn't really do a positive or a negative. This is where the red card, 2/3 to 3/4 of the time is probably not all that helpful. And the question is for that quarter of a time or a third of a time, is that card valuable enough and that play enough for you to want that in your deck? Me personally, and I don't get offended with someone who go, on either side of the debate, but me personally, I would rather not have a card that I equate to having to flip 3 coins and have 2 land on heads, or having to flip 4 coins and have 3 land on heads for it to be effective. I'd rather use another item or supporter card. Because a lot of my decks, if I did have a red card, it was typically 1, and I was usually short a potion or short a Giovanni or something along those lines. All right, so of the 2 matches so far, both matches have kind of indicated that that red card that I played actually helped my opponent out more than it helped me. The first example, they had like 5 cards, and they went down to 3, and they hadn't really been playing, and they were able to start playing. And this on the second one, I think that was a good demonstration that, they maybe could have played 1 card, but they were able to immediately play 2 cards. And of course, they got the 9 tails and a Blaine out and pretty much won the match. All right. So on the side of this, I'm just playing a game with each of my top 5 budget decks. So at number 3 is my first ultra budget deck, and it's Cinccino. I'm going to go ahead and select this deck. So Cinccino is kind of like a poor version, or maybe a very budget-friendly version of a Pikachu EX deck. Cinccino works in a similar fashion. Same amount of damage. It needs 3 on the bench to do 90. It works just like Pikachu EX. The only difference is it's got 2 differences. One is its health is lower, and 2, it needs more energy. But for a budget deck, an ultra budget deck, it actually can be pretty competitive. So in my top 5, this was number 3. And it was the first of my 2 ultra budget decks to be in the top 5. And again, a ultra budget deck is differentiated from a budget deck by the fact that it only has 1 or 2 diamond cards, and it only has up to 1 stage of evolution. If a regular budget deck has up to 3 diamond cards and has, you can have multiple evolutions. And those 3 diamond cards sometimes are not the easiest of things to get. I know in finishing the Secret Mew quest, I was stuck on a couple of 3 diamond cards. I had 4 diamonds and everything else, but I did not have any 3 diamonds. All right, so I've got a couple of cards here. So how this deck is built, I'm going to go ahead and, for now, I'm going to put Hitmonlee in the active spot. I'm going to put Minccino on the bench. My goal is to build up that Minccino. The Cinccino, they're going to use colorless energy. I'm mixing it with a fighting Pokemons. The key to this deck is I'm going to have Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan. They both are very easy on energy. They're also very easy on retreat. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and play a Pokeball. And there's another Hitmonlee. And pretty much other than Cinccino, everything that I have, 6 of my 8 cards are basics. So it's kind of stacked to hopefully help me get my bench filled early so I can get Cinccino up and going. All right, I have a Giovanni, can't really use it. Potion can't use it. Cinccino, I can't evolve. So with that, no energy first turn, I'll end my turn. So the deck's built around this ultra budget deck number 3 is a bunch of basic cards with very low retreat so that I can build up Cinccino on the back, since it does need 1 extra energy compared to Pikachu EX, and then get it into the active spot and start attacking. So here's a great example. My opponent is sitting on, what, 6 cards. So typically when I have 5 or 6 cards in my hand, I'd call that a brick. I've been dealt a brick. I don't have a whole lot to play. If I had a red card right now, it would be great to go ahead and play it, because the likelihood that I help my opponent out is probably greater than helping me out. So even if you do play red cards, obviously this would probably not be a time you'd want to play a red card if you could try to strategically figure out a better time to play it. All right, so I'm upgrading to Cinccino. I'm going to go ahead and put my energy on Cinccino. I know I need 1 energy for Hitmonlee, but I'm expecting to, by the time I'm ready, hopefully I have a next speed, get Professor's Research and draw some cards. I don't need the potions. I don't need Giovanni. And my opponent only can do 10 right now, so at this point, I don't feel like I need to heal my Hitmonlee. All right, so my opponent is definitely starting to stack up cards. So they drew 1 card and got an upgrade. Let's see, did they play anything else? All right, so we got a Ghastly. Professor's Research. Now, again, related to the red card, I think the functionality that it brings is much more useful in a deck playing on regular TCG, where you're looking at 60 cards versus a smaller 20 card deck, and I think that's really where the math comes in. All right, so I'm going to put Hitmonlee to the front, and there's the X speed I'll need for later. I'm going to go ahead and Cinccino, but I'm looking for, I need a couple more here. I'm going to really be able to attack. So with that, and in my turn. So I'm still looking for, really, I'm not so much focused on these matches as far as winning with these budget decks. I'm really looking for my red card. I think I left a red card in all of these. And that's what I'm really hoping for, is to be able to play that red card and do this test. So two battles so far, and it's been pretty apparent that those battles have both been swayed by my red card playing, helping my opponent. But no red card so far in this match. So, I'm kind of playing a little bit different just to try to get a red card out. Put my Hitmonlee down. I'm going to put that on my Cinccino. And I'll go ahead and do an attack. Hopefully I'll draw the red card this next turn. I do a little test. So my opponent's back up to 5 cards. Playing a Pokeball. Let's see if within their hand they have anything. Now they could be sitting on, obviously, item cards. They could be sitting on X speeds or heals. So it's a little bit hard to tell. But typically, the further you get into the game, from what I've been reading, a little more difficult it is to utilize a red card to your advantage. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put this on Hitmonlee. Obviously, the game's over, but I'll give my opponent the chance to win it. I'm going to heal up a little bit. Maybe I can survive another turn. And if they're sitting on a Giovanni or not. And 30, 40, still not enough. So, anyone have any input? Feel free to share any comments on what your thoughts are on the red card. If you think it's a positive thing, a negative thing. Are you emotional about it? I've seen, following a lot of the threads over the last few days, and there's some heated debates going on, and it's like, well, it's just a game, it's just a card. So everyone has their opinion, so be it. Really what it's all about is just kind of playing and having fun. All right, so I'm down to 10. Doesn't make sense to use Sabrina. I know I'm losing this match anyway. I was really just hoping to draw a red card. Let me just go ahead and do an attack. I'll let my opponent, I could concede at this point. If I was doing some type of PvP event where a person gets credit for the win, I would have conceded, as soon as I could. One, give them opportunity to get back to playing, as well as giving myself an opportunity to get back to playing. But since we're not, well, technically, I am in the event, so I'm just assuming at this point almost everyone's probably done with their consecutive wins. But I'll give them the opportunity. Gengar EX, one of my favorite cards. Nice strong hit at 100, and with that, the match is over. All right, no red card to demonstrate in that match. Let's go on. We'll play 2 more matches. I'll show my top 2 budget-friendly decks. Hopefully we play another red card. Send us thanks real quick. And on the red card count, I think right now, I'm leaning towards, I've played it twice and helped my opponent out twice. All right, so at number 2 is a Mankey Primate Kabutops deck. This deck is built around the only basic Pokemon being Mankey. The Kabutops evolution starts off with a Dome Fossil, which is an item card, so you're guaranteed to get Mankey into the active spot. The strategy behind this deck is pretty simple. Get hit, get hurt, get Primate, get evolved to Primate, and start hitting back. Kabutops is a good kind of mid to late game, although this deck will kind of struggle with really late game because the deck just doesn't have enough strength to make huge hits. Kabutops is only going to do 50 points of damage, so it's almost like a game of attrition if you're going to win with Kabutops. All right, so just like I mentioned, Mankey to the active spot. I'm sitting on a Kabutops, a Sabrina, an X-Speed, and a Giovanni. We'll start this battle. And we've got a Growlithe and a Charmander. So we could be looking at, not this past week, but the weekend before, on Limitless TCG, the Charmander Arcanine, the double EX deck there was reigning supreme. Okay, so I've got my Mankey out there. I don't have energy. It's the first turn, so I'm not going to use Giovanni, X-Me, Sabrina. None of that makes any sense. So at this point, I will just end my turn. But yeah, 2 weeks ago, Charizard EX, Arcanine EX was taking, I think it was 6 of the top 15. Yeah, what I did is I looked at the top 3 match tournaments and took the top 5 and created a top 15. And the Charizard Arcanine match pretty much stole the show 2 weeks ago. So I got Primate, but I actually want to do a little damage to my... I'm going to take 20 from Growlithe. I'll be down to 40 as soon as I attack here. So I should still have a little bit left in the tank. It would be nice to do a little more damage to that Growlithe. So I'm going to go ahead and use a Giovanni card. Charmander's going to take a little bit more to get up and going. The Charizard, so I'd rather work on the Growlithe. And with that, I'm not going to anything else I'm going to use. I'm going to go ahead and attack. Okay. Professor's research, good old Professor Oak. So yeah, 2 weeks ago it was Charizard EX and Arcanine EX. Last week it was reigning on the top, again taking the top 3 tournaments, and a number of competitors taking the top 5 from each of those top 3 to build the top 15. Pikachu EX was in like 8 of the top 15, so it had returned to the top after being out of the top as the top deck Mewtwo EX was kind of sitting up there for a while. Mewtwo EX Gardevoir was kind of sitting at the top. All right, so here comes most likely a bite right here to my Mankey. He's still got a little bit in the tank as far as health. It would be nice if I had a heal right now. But so I'm going to go ahead and put this Dome Fossil down. That will start my... I'll need a Kabuto to get things going. I'm going to go ahead and put my Primeape down. I'm at 60 health. Go ahead and assign this energy point. Now, at this point, I've got 100 points of damage. Probably just go ahead and stick with all the energies on the Growlithe, so it doesn't really make sense to attack anything else. So I'm going to fight back. Score my first point. So related to the Limitless TCG tournaments, with Pikachu EX being the top meta deck this past week, it was paired with a number of supplement cards. The pairings either was Pikachu along with Voltorb, or Pikachu along with Zebstrika. Those were the more common ones I saw. And the most common one was paired with Zebstrika. And that good old Blaine took me out right there. And that was I have a video out on that. All right, let's see if I can get a red card. That's really what I'm here for. We're here to judge the impact of the red cards. But so far, my decks are not helping me here. I'm going to place a Dome Fossil down. And at this point, I'm going to put energy there. Doesn't make sense to use X speed or anything else. All I can really do on this is discard it, so I'm just going to let it sit there, hoping that maybe I'll get a Kabuto and I can start doing some damage. That said, though, I'm probably going to lose it off a Rapid Dash, but I only need one energy all the way through for the fossil line. Even Kabutops is only a single energy attack, so kind of regardless of where I put that energy point, I'm not really going to waste it. All right, I'm on red card. Let's see a red card. Another Primeape. I'll go ahead at this point, play a Sabrina. 2-1, but obviously my opponent's in the driver's seat. Where is your stage 1 partner? Okay. He's going to bring his Charmander back. Not a lot of strong cards out on the table, but my opponent's been, just like my hand, we've been sitting at 4 or 5, so neither of us have had the greatest of hands. With that Rapid Dash Blaine was a game winner. All right, well, down to one more match. That'll wrap up my stream for tonight. Probably be right about on time, around 9. Let me give a thanks to my opponent. Hopefully we'll see a red card. So we've seen it twice. Both times it's helped my opponent out. Let's finish with the number 1 deck in my top 5 budget decks. And this is a Blaine deck, kind of what we just saw a moment ago. It's an ultra budget deck because it only has 1 or 2 diamond cards. And it has no more than 1 evolution. And this is a great deck. This deck can really hit hard and fast and early. And it can hold its own against some of the EX decks. So with that said, let's see how we do. One final match. Looking for to draw a red card so we can continue testing the red card theory. Again, I'm not as focused on winning, not as focused on demonstrating these top 5 budget decks. I'm really more focused on either having a red card played on me or playing a red card on my opponent and seeing what the impact is. So far, I've played 2 red cards, and it was pretty apparent that in both of those situations, I actually benefited my opponent by playing it. All right, start the battle. Articuno EX. Last night I was streaming Articuno EX Grit Ninja deck. It's a lot of fun to play, especially when Misty is being really giving of water energy. Fun deck to play. Okay, I'm going to start off with a Pokeball. I always play the Pokeballs before a professor's research. Now, in this deck, my preference is to get Ninetales active early and going. Ninetales just is so much stronger than Rapidash. I'm going to play a second Pokeball. And with that, Ponyta. I'm going to go ahead and get that played on the ground, on the bench. Throw out a Professor's Research to see what Professor Oak can do for me. A Sabrina and a Blaine. So, you know, overall, I'm off to a good start. And with that, I'm going to end my turn. Pretty productive turn 1 for a Blaine deck. And I know I'm going up against Misty in a water deck, so my opponent's got a good draw. Let's see if, unfortunately, though, Misty at least fails him or her on this first coin flip. I got a 1 retreat value there. Rapidash is 1, so I'm just going to go ahead and do an evolution there. Going to also go ahead and I think what I'll do is, because I know there's going to be a little damage coming if Articuno can get the Blizzard going. So I'm going to go ahead and put a point of... no, actually, I'm going to... Well, I'm kind of torn here between starting to get some damage going on Articuno, but still needing energy. I think I'm going to start here. Pull out Professor's Research. Another Ninetales. I go ahead and place Ninetales. Yeah. I'll go ahead and put my Ninetales right there. And with that, my turn is done. Okay, this would be a great time for me to get a red card, because my opponent perhaps is sitting on a bad deal. Most likely, they just played that Starry U after they picked up a card, so those other 4 cards were cards that they may not have been able to use. They drawn a few more cards here. And now they're looking a little better. Their bench is looking a little good. Looks like I have an Ice Wing. Let's see if Misty comes out. Nope, no Misty in their hand. And of course, a Water against Fire. I've got that immediate issue there. Now, I don't have an X speed, unfortunately, so if I spend this energy to get Rapidash back, I'll have no energy to get my Ninetales going. So, and I don't have any Professor's Research, so there's nothing I can really do there. But I am going to go ahead and play a Sabrina card and get Articuno out of the active spot. So they'll at least have to spend some energy to kind of keep Articuno from getting to that Blizzard damage, at least for 1 turn. I'm going to hold on to my potion right now. I have nothing else really to play. I'm going to go ahead, though, and put a point of energy on Rapidash, because I know I'm going to get another point next turn for Ninetales. So at least now I can go ahead and throw an attack. And with that, let's see what my opponent has in mind. I'm going to throw a potion. And bring Articuno back to the front. Looking for my other Vulpix. It hasn't happened yet. Here comes another big hit. Alright, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and put Ninetales to the active spot. Fortunately, I have a weakness against Articuno. I'm going to upgrade this Rapidash up to Rapidash to Ponyta. I'm going to, even if I heal, I can only get to 90. So I know I'm at a risk there with the water. Go ahead and get this energy on there. I'm going to use my Blaine card. I need to knock that to Articuno down as much as possible. Not a whole lot, so let's go and attack. So I could looking for a trade here. I'll trade my Ninetales for that Articuno if it stays in. Rapidash to the active spot. Hopefully I can draw a good card that's helpful. A Giovanni. I'll go ahead and apply this energy. Now, I don't need the Giovanni right now. I am going to use my potion. And since Giovanni is really not needed, at this point I'm just going to go ahead and attack. And that ties it up at 2-2. So this ultra budget deck can be very competitive with a lot of decks. In this case, Starmie's going to come up, do the Hydro Splash with the extra damage. That will finish off my Rapidash. And with that, my opponent wins. And unfortunately, I didn't get another red card. Again, the point tonight was to try to see if the decks would give me red cards so we could test out the theory. So we only got 2 red cards that came up. Unfortunately, I had those decks stacked with them. But out of the 2 that did come up, I think it was pretty apparent that in both cases, I played the red card and I helped my opponent out. So again, the math from the people who are really smart, not only in the game, but along with statistical probability. Again, I'll just review this real quick and then wrap up for tonight. So the red card, the probability on the red card is roughly 33 to 50% of the time you'll play a red card and it will have a neutral outcome. That meaning it doesn't really negatively or positively help you as the person playing it. So immediately it's a 50% yes or 50% no, roughly, or 33% yes or no. Will it have a positive impact for you 25 to 33% of the time? Yes. Will it have a negative impact for you 25 to 33%? Yes. A negative impact to you playing it means that you helped your opponent out. So overall, a red card, when you look at it roughly 66 to 75% of the time, it's probably not going to be advantageous for you. It might help with interrupting your opponent and doing a few other things, but just straight statistically speaking on how well or not it influences the outcome of the game, roughly 2 out of 3 times or 3 out of 4 times you play that card, it's not going to help you out. Think of it this way. If you were to play that card, would you put a card in your deck that you had to flip 3 coins and you had to land heads on 2 for it to function? Or perhaps you play that card and you have to flip 4 coins and 3 of them have to land on heads to function. I think, at least for myself, I can't speak for everyone else, but I definitely wouldn't probably put a card like that in my deck. I'd much rather have an extra item or support a card, or 2 if you're putting 2 in. But that's what I just wanted to kind of share tonight. It's just a thought. It's an interesting topic that people are almost getting angry over. A lot of pros and cons from both sides of the equation. I just wanted to share my personal belief, my personal findings, and what I kind of found in taking a look at the research and the math. So I hope everyone has a good rest of their morning. a good rest of their afternoon, evening, or night, depending on where you are on the globe. And thanks for joining. Again, this is Insane Rider. Thanks for joining and watching The Budget Gamer. Thanks for all your support. Please continue to watch videos, subscribe, tune in when you can. I'm doing everything I can to try to bring good, pertinent information as quick as possible. And as always, let's battle.